and welcome. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and thanks to our live studio audience for being here with us tonight. We have a really good show coming up.
We do.
But first, I'm Valerie, that's David, and this is our Gen X Pittsburgh podcast. Tonight's guest is Scott Mervis, longtime music critic for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Woo.
What a time.
I know.
What a time to be booking Scott as the guest.
I know.
You would think that I was prescient or something.
Yeah.
But what about that word, huh?
Wow.
Yeah.
What's happening here today?
Can't tell I'm a writer, huh? But I mean, so for those who don't know, everybody knows, right? It's all over social media. It's everywhere, right? Scott is one of the reporters who unfortunately lost their job when new owners have bought the PG. And they cut, I think, 80 different writers from writers, editors. I shouldn't just say writers, but made some really deep cuts into the PG stuff.
Yeah, I know. He was there for what, 41 years?
41 years.
God,
and
it's longer than I've been alive.
You know, the cuts have, for me, have been surprising because, you know, they got rid of the entire editorial department.
Yeah.
They got rid of Scott, who was the only music writer, I think, plus the pop or the weekend editor.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to do what you have to do, right? The paper wasn't surviving, but it's going to be a different paper.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to talk about days of yore with Scott, right? And what it was like back then, and some of his favorite shows, some of his favorite stories, and just hear what if anything he's planned in, over the last 36 hours, right? That he's found out that this is happening, right?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
all right. On that note, we're going to take a quick sponsor break, and when we come back, we'll have Scott Mervis up here with us. Where do Pittsburghers go to make a good night even better? Con Alma in downtown Pittsburgh, where the lights stay low, the jazz speaks for itself, and the kitchen is on point. Come early and stay late, and let the night do the rest. That's Con Alma, downtown Pittsburgh. Thanks, everyone. Here we are, Gen X Pittsburgh and Scott Mervis. Not quite Gen X, but you've covered a lot of things in Gen X.
I have done that. You know, I was having a conversation the other night with Manny Feiner, the great Pittsburgh legend, and I was like, I'm going on this Gen X podcast. He's like, Scott, you're a boomer. And I was like, look, Manny, I've told this thing before. My sister is a boomer. Okay. My sister graduated from Peabody High School in 1969, okay? Her friends were getting drafted in Vietnam. She was like Woodstock, although she didn't go to Woodstock, but she was Woodstock, Hendrix, Airplane. And then I came along and I was Kiss.
Right.
You know, like I was going to see Kiss. Now, there was nothing comparable to what her life and me going to, going to see these bands like that. It was a completely different experience, but we're 11 years apart. But I've always kind of rejected the boomer versus Gen X because of that.
Well, I think that for people like Manny, and I've had this argument with Manny, right, about what we're doing here, but when people make that argument, they tend to forget that I grew up listening to Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, right? Yeah. And you take a band like Tool or Soundgarden, right? They are descendants of King Crimson and, Black Sabbath and the whole doom metal scene and progressive rock. And so it's impossible to divorce the two.
It's a continuous line.
Yeah. I mean, even a band like Depeche Mode, right? Like Depeche Mode, a completely electronic band, but really without what ELP was doing or something, you don't get there.
Right.
So
I've been listening to so much new wave lately. That's been like the soundtrack for my departure from the Post-Gazette. I'm leaning back on like old new wave. I have a playlist with like the Pet Shop Boys, New Order, Talk, which is kind of an overlooked band that I've gone back to, and they sound even better now to me than they sounded then. He's a great singer. You know.
So you grew up in the city?
I grew up in Stanton Heights.
Wow, okay.
I went to Peabody High School, and my music start, if you want to go back to like where it all came from, like I used to sit in my sister's bedroom and like flip through all these records. Like I would pull the doors out without Strange Days.
Oh yeah.
And it would scare me. And then she had like Frank Zappa, Hot Rats.
Right.
And I would be like, what is going on?
Right.
What is happening here?
Yeah.
You know, because I was like listening to the Jackson 5
Yeah.
at that age and everything. I was listening to stuff like that. I was like, you know, under 10 years old. But what really kind of changed me one day is, and I listened to like DVD and stuff like that. Once I got into be like early teen years, DVD, YDD. I loved YDD.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I was friends with this girl named Amy Wagner. Okay, and she lived in Stanton Heights on Stanton Avenue. We had a whole group of friends. Her older brother was Harry Wagner, aka Harry the Wire. Now, Harry the Wire is an unsung legend in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Okay. He was one of the original YEP OG DJs playing New Wave. He was the New Wave DJ at the Sanctuary in Oakland.
Yeah.
Harry Wire was a legend. So I would go over there, and then Harry knew I was into music, and Harry didn't have friends. Because Harry was weird. He had health problems and maybe a little bit like spectrumish or whatever.
Right.
But he had a basement full of records, and he would try to get me down there. And Amy was like, Scott, don't hang out with Harry. Like, and I'm like, Amy, I gotta hear these records. So he takes me down there, and it's 1976, and he plays me Kiss Alive.
Sure.
Okay, now I didn't, like, Kiss wasn't mainstream at Kiss Alive. Like, they weren't playing Rock and Roll All Night yet on like the radio, because it was just like happening, you know? And he played me early Blue Oyster Cult, like Secret Treaties, which right now is I consider it one of the greatest rock albums ever made. Mott the Hoople,
sure,
early Bowie stuff that I wasn't hearing. So he like turned me on to this like incredible music that just like changed everything for me.
Yeah.
And I, you know, and then he got into New Wave around the time I was getting into New Wave too. And so, you know, he was a huge influence.
Yeah. Wow. And so did you go to school for writing, or?
That's a funny question. I didn't go to school for journalism or for music, and I don't really know much about either.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. I don't really know
I think
much
that's
about
fabulous.
either.
Yeah.
But somehow I combined the two things.
Yeah.
And like maybe something there worked.
Yeah. That was back in the day when you could do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Really, you can't do it now.
Yeah. Yeah. I probably not.
No.
Like, I never had like a credential card.
Yeah.
Right. But let me tell you what happened. So I get to Pitt.
Yeah.
Okay. It is September 1979, first week of September. Okay. We just finished classes for like the week, and it's Friday night, and there's a band at the student union.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, playing outside. There was a porch, you know, that porch along it.
Yep.
They were on the porch. It was the Iron City House Rockers.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever seen a local band. I was 18 years old. I couldn't go into bars or whatever. There weren't things like bands playing everywhere around the city like there are now.
Right.
And this band comes out, and it's like, oh my God. I mean, this is like E Street Band. This is like the Jay Giles Band. This is like, you know, they're right in there with them in terms of like how good this band is, you know. Mark Reisman blowing on the harmonica. Yeah. It was just like, it blew me away completely. And then a couple weeks later, there was a concert at Flagstaff Hill before one of the movies, and it was a really cold day. Maybe it was in October. It was about 30 degrees this evening, and the band that was playing was Car Sickness.
Oh my God!
Okay, so I watched Car Sickness, and I had never seen anything like this before. My friends were with me. We were all into like Dylan and the band,
right? Yeah.
And we were like, that's the Grateful Dead. That's the kind of stuff that we were like really into. So I watched Car Sickness, and you know, it's like this punk with like noise, with like jazz. It's like, I can't compare them really to anybody. Mm-hmm. You know, they were just like their own thing, because some of the guys were punk.
Yep.
Some of the guys were prog. You know,
Yeah.
like Steve Schuley was prog.
Yeah.
Carl Mullen was punk.
Right.
And Irish and
Right.
And so I watched this. My friends were like kind of drifting off, and I thought, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. You know, I've never seen anything this bad. And then a couple days go by, you know, and I'm looking back at this thing and I'm thinking, I kind of like it. I kind of get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It hit me slowly over
Right.
like a week or something. It was like, I think I have to see that again.
Yeah.
You know? And so this combination of the Iron City House Rockers
Right.
and Car Sickness, and they were kind of polar opposites in a local scene.
Mm-hmm.
They were literally at war with each
Right.
other in some ways.
Right.
And this was like these two sides. But back then, like, I didn't have to pick one side and stay with it.
Right.
Like some people did, but I refused to do that. Some people were like, you know, F the House Rockers,
Right.
or like F Car Sickness and F that whole scene over there, you know, Electric Banana.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? I dig both of these.
Yeah.
And so I would go to the you know, I
Yep.
would sneak into the Decade.
Yeah.
I had a fake ID to get into the Electric Banana. I would sneak in through the Decade roof,
Yeah. Yeah.
down through the kitchen,
Yeah.
through the apartment building, because
Yeah.
we knew somebody in the apartment building. So I was into both things. And
Wow.
and I really think that that's why I've been able to do this job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I knew a lot of people in the scene that would they wrote off that whole Decade scene.
Right.
They wrote off the Silencers. It was too mainstream.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they would have been lousy Post-Gazette music critics.
Yeah. Right. That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
That's
they
right.
weren't, they weren't
That's right.
open to both of these things. So
That's right.
I may not have been like the best person, best
Yeah.
writer, best person, but like I think I had like an open-mindedness for.
Yeah, and
for-
you respected the
Yeah.
musician.
Did you
Yeah.
start at the PG? I mean, was that your first gigs, or did you have?
No. Like what happened was, I was like really into like another show that changed my life when I was in college was like seeing Gang of Four
Yeah.
at CMU,
Yeah.
Skibo Ballroom, and I had never experienced a punk show where like people were just slamming into each other and the band was just like so freaking intense. So I saw this show at Skibo. Gang of Four became one of my favorite bands, and I was like, I got to start writing about music, because I read, I think it was the David Frick story about them in Rolling Stone,
Right.
and I was like, man, you can write about. I had a dual major of like English writing and business.
Okay.
But it was like fiction writing,
Yeah.
and it was like, you know, one day I would have like a computer, you know, those cards.
Oh yeah.
Fortran,
Yep.
whatever it was
Yep.
called, Cobalt. I don't
Yep.
know. Like I would have to do that,
Right.
and then like the next day I would have to turn in a short story.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, man, my brain is like, it's not working with these two things. Like I can't do both of these things, one creative and one like computer.
Right.
And so I went to the Pit News. I walked in the door on the 4th floor of the student union, and I was determined to write about music. And there was the woman sitting there was this she was goth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and this was like before goth.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Like she was original goth.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, and then she had this other guy with him, and anyway, totally intimidated me and
Yeah.
scared me, and she was like, she looked at me like, you want to write about music? I'm like, yeah, and she's like, all right, well, like just, you know, give me a record review or something. Anyway, long story short, not long after that, I was backstage with Gang of Four at Syria Mosque, interviewing Gang of Four.
Yeah.
For the Pit News. It was one of my first big stories, and it was just like the thrill of a lifetime to be there with Gang of Four. And then in 1983, I had just graduated from Pitt. I had no idea what I was going to do, and the House Rockers played their last show at the Decade. So I went and covered that for the Pitt News, even though I had already graduated.
Yeah.
I was lingering a little bit.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure that was the timing on that, and it was the experience of the House Rockers in the Decade playing their last show was also one of the most intense experiences I ever had. I mean, there was broken glass, broken beer bottles all
Yeah.
over the floor. It was people on tables, like just insane. And so I just wrote this thing and then I submitted it to. I got a job working as a messenger downtown for a law firm, so I was walking, legal things around. And then one day there was this thing called In Pittsburgh Newsweek.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And it was like the first issue, and I picked it up. And I'm like, whoa, what's this? Like, this looks like something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I called him up, and there was a guy there named Abby Mendelson, who was
Abby very well.
Another Pittsburgh legend, and he's like
so well.
turned in some stuff, and I turned in this story that I had written for the Pitt News about the Iron City House Rockers, and I got a call back from him, and he said, "So I just read your stuff," and I said, "Okay." He said, "This story about the House Rockers." He said, "You wrote this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did." He's like, "Seriously?" I was like, "Yeah, I wrote that." He's like, "And you were just like in college?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "All right, you're hired." Like,
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So,
I literally just got a copy yesterday. Abby gave me a copy of his new book.
Wow.
I see Abby every week.
I have to connect with him.
Yeah.
I definitely have to connect with him. He taught me so much. He taught me journalism.
Right.
I sat in the office. I never took journalism classes. Abby taught me journalism. I didn't know it, but just sitting there with Abby like every day, that's how I learned.
Right.
If I learned.
Right.
I think I absorbed some of it.
Yeah. I think you did. You were around for 41 years, right?
Yeah. So I became a senior editor of In Pittsburgh, along with writing music there, and I was working with Charlie Humphrey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Another great Pittsburgh
Yep.
legend, Charlie Humphrey,
Yep.
Pittsburgh filmmakers. He's still a friend of mine, and I heard that the Post Gazette was looking for freelance music critic, so I applied for the Post Gazette.
Wow.
And Charlie was like, I asked for permission. He said, I think maybe like if you did reviews for the Post Gazette and you were here, like maybe that would bring like a little bit, like that would add prestige to like in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And so for some reason I was allowed to do both.
Yeah.
And so my first show for the Post Gazette was the Ramones.
Wow.
That's cool.
At Siri Moscow. It was like a tryout to the Ramones show. It was a tryout for the Post Gazette, and I hope I'm not long-winded.
No,
No,
this
not
is
at
fabulous,
all. No,
right?
this is
Yeah.
great.
Okay, so I go. Here's another Pittsburgh legend.
Yeah.
George Anderson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Longtime editor and film critic for the Post Gazette. Just classic old school journalist like you would see in a movie.
Yeah.
So he reads the Ramones. He said, "All right." He said, "We're going to bring you on as a freelancer along with another guy, Jeff Seawall, and we're going to split the beat." And so I said, "So how does this like work with reviewing shows for the Post Gazette? Like how does it work?" He said, "Well," and while I'm sitting there, he's typing one of his movie reviews.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Because you never had his full attention.
Right.
He's either typing his column, and he'll look over to you every now and then, and kind of listen to you, but then
Right.
So he goes, "So you go to the concert, and then the deadline will be about 11:30
Yeah. Yep.
quick.
because it's the morning paper,
Right.
Yeah.
And then the press is going to come out later in the day,
Right.
and you need to beat the Pittsburgh Press,
Right.
and they're going to have their review, which is due in the morning.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's due in
yeah,
the
yeah.
morning for the afternoon
Right.
paper.
Right.
So I said, "Yeah, you're kidding me, right?" And he's typing, his thing. And I said, "I don't know if I don't know how I'm gonna do it. Like the concert's over at 11 o'clock. How do I had to go
Yeah.
downtown,
Right.
park at the Post Gazette,
Yeah.
go up, type the whole thing on the ATEX system,
Right.
Oh my god.
And I said, I don't know how I'm gonna do this." And he looks over to me, and goes, "Just do it."
Yeah.
Wow.
And like a chill went through. And you know what? It just happened to me again. Like a chill
Yeah.
went
Oh
through
my
me when I
God.
said it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he had this glare at me. And he's like, "Just do it." You know what I mean? And that was his
Yeah.
That's what he did. That's
Right.
what journalists did.
Right.
And I think ever since then, that's been my motto. It's just like, just do it. Like
Right.
anything that is difficult
yeah.
But what would happen was like the craziest thing, like, for instance, I went to see I was reviewing B.B. King.
Yeah.
one time. He was at the Stanley, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And they had an opening act, and then Bobby Bland came out,
Yep.
and then BB King came out. I remember this. It was 10:35.
Yeah.
10:35. I had to be back at the Post Gazette by about 11:10.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I saw BB King for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which was kind of like the opening theme, like
Right.
the overture
Yes.
that the band would do.
Right.
Because
Right.
the band came out
Yeah. He had
and
that
they
big
did like
band.
7
Yes.
minutes.
Right.
And then BB King came out. He was out there for like 3 minutes.
Right.
So I'm like, BB King, you know, I had to write like Bobby Bland, and BB King came out, and you know, it was just legend from there.
Right.
Like whatever I had to
Yep.
say to pretend like I saw BB King.
I've done those
And-
sort of
and-
stories, by the way. where-
And like I left every concert
yeah.
early. I mean, generally we would have to leave a half hour before the
Right.
concert ended.
Right.
And so it was like this incomplete review, and you just like had to hope that like
Right.
God knows what didn't happen
Right.
at the
Right.
concert.
Well, luckily with BB King, I mean, you know, he only played like 25 minutes, and half of it was the band vamping. Right. He did the same 4 or 5 songs in every city he went to, and that was sort of.
Yeah, this is like 1987.
Yeah.
So this was like young BB.
I know
King.
it was.
This is like still pretty
This
young
is so
BB King.
right,
Like,
right.
he's not that old yet.
Right. Right.
So-
At what point did you realize that this wasn't just a job, but this was like your life? Like this was your lane, and this was like
I haven't realized that yet.
really,
Yeah.
really.
No. I don't know. I mean, I've always had like a little bit of like imposter syndrome about it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I
'Cause,
get
like I said, like there's so many people who know so much. Like we were just talking about Manny.
Yep.
Right? Manny knows so much more about music than I do.
Oh, well,
I'll
he
give you
knows
an
about
example.
like obscure bands from
Yeah.
Japan, right?
Right.
But I
But
mean,
if you sent Manny to see Journey,
right.
God knows what would happen.
That's exactly right.
Like the world might end.
That's
you know,
right.
like I don't know what would happen, but PG readers would not be happy.
That's
I
right.
can assure you of that.
That's right.
And they weren't happy with me that early on either,
Right.
because I was coming from a punk aesthetic, but not that
Yeah.
extreme of one. Like I was able to see, like I was into Boston.
Right.
I loved Boston.
Yeah,
I loved
yeah.
Kansas.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
I don't know if Manny ever went through like
Um,
Boston, Kansas,
Right.
Neil Young,
Right.
that phase.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I had like that.
It's a
That's
different
what-
job, though. I mean, when you're a critic, you're trying to get to the masses, right? An idea
Yeah,
of
yeah.
what happened and give them a little bit of inkling so that maybe they're going to go and pick up the album or you know, go to see the next show or something else. Your job isn't to highlight the most obscure band that's, you know, driving across the states in a van.
I will tell you something though that I did that was incredibly obnoxious. Like in my early days
Yeah.
at the Post Gazette, I went to see it was Loverboy.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Oh yeah.
and I to this day do not like Loverboy.
Yeah.
There's nothing about Loverboy that I really like. I'm sorry to say. Like then, like I
You're
could
not
be
loving
into a
every
lot of
minute of
bands. No, I was not into them whatsoever. So this is early on when I started freelancing for the Post Gazette, and this is in the '80s. Okay. So I wrote something about Loverboy, and at the end, I just listed all the bands you should listen to instead of Loverboy.
Oh my
That's
God.
funny. Yeah.
It was
That's-
paragraphs.
Ballsy.
of
Right.
just listings
That's
of
really
like
funny.
bands like the Replacements,
Yeah.
and the Meat Puppets,
Right.
Oh
and
my
Husker
God.
Du,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all these bands. It was just a list.
Yeah.
And so there was a gentleman who worked as one of the managers at the Civic Arena,
Yeah.
and he to this day is a friend of mine now, and I am actually going to be like meeting with him next week.
Okay.
So anyway, he wrote a letter to George Anderson. He's like, "You got to get rid of this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this isn't gonna work,
Right.
right?"
Right.
And this was, but George like hung with me, and I didn't do any more lists of bands that you should listen to
Right.
instead of this.
Yeah.
But I should find that review.
Yeah,
and
that's
see how many
classic.
bands I
Yeah.
actually listed.
Right.
But I was just venting.
Right.
You know, I was like
Yeah.
so triggered.
Yeah.
That wasn't a word back then.
Right.
By how much I didn't like Loverboy.
Right.
And that happens to me sometimes. Like I'm usually pretty easygoing. Like I'm not a tough critic.
Right.
Yeah.
But sometimes a band will just like, a performance will just like piss me off.
Right.
Well,
Or I just rage, like Jackson Brown.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like one of the craziest lines I ever wrote, I think, was a review of a Jackson Brown concert. where I demanded that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame come take his induction
Yeah.
away based on that performance.
Yeah.
And I think that's I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it went into print like that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to look that one up. But it was like, you cannot let this guy in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame after this performance
Yeah,
he
that's
gave.
that's funny.
boy.
You know, the
Wow.
funniest review I ever read was Asia came out with the greatest hits album, and it was called Then and Now,
Mhm.
and this was in Guitar Magazine, and this was the entire review. Asia, bad then, worse now. That was it. The entire, I thought that's the best review.
I'll give you one that I think that might compete with that.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a classic musician magazine review, and it was of the band GTR.
Oh yeah.
Okay, you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I forget who GTR was now, but it just said the review was like, the name was GTR, and then the review was just SHT. That was it. It was 3
Yeah.
letters.
That's pretty good.
My
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. Did you like to review live shows or record CDs more? Which one did you have a more of affinity for?
Definitely the live for me, because the adrenaline of the moment like would help with the writing.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I would have like a adrenaline rush
Yeah.
from the show. And I also like I really like to I think I'm more really like in the vein of a storyteller than
Yeah.
a critic. Like I don't think that I'm that opinionated as a critic. I like to sort of try to capture, describe, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like and sort of tell a story.
I think
with
you're
what I'm
absolutely
writing
right.
about.
I've read a lot of your writing, and I think you're right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
now at my age, I love telling these classic stories of like, you know, like just in recent PG, I did a piece on the Ramones 50th anniversary and when the
Yeah.
Ramones first came to town, and played in Antonino's Pizzeria on Craig Street,
Wow.
which I wasn't there.
Right.
It was 1977. I was home. I
Yeah.
was doing my homework. I was
Right.
15.
Right.
Yeah.
I hadn't met Harry yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I knew Harry, but he
Right.
hadn't played Me Kiss yet. So.
Right. Well, so what about the local? Because Pittsburgh, I mean, you've touched on it a little bit, but Pittsburgh really has a strong music scene, and it has over the years, right? And like you were talking about the Iron City Rockers, but through you know, the Gathering Field and the Clarks. So obviously, everybody knows about the Clarks and Rusted Root, but it really has an underground scene. It has sort of a pop scene. It has, in later years, a rap scene. So did you like to write about local music or these bigger acts that were coming through more?
Both. Yeah. And I would definitely like our music scene here. We didn't have a record industry in Pittsburgh, right?
Right.
So if you wanted to make it as a rock band, you really could not do it here. You had to leave.
Yeah, sure.
You know, some people left, like Bret Michaels left.
Yep.
You know,
Right.
he went to Harrisburg,
Right.
Mechanicsburg, and then I guess he probably ended up in LA. Or
That's
something,
right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there were some other people like Red Beach. They left.
Yep.
And stuff like that. Now, the people who stayed, they did music because they weren't trying to be successful. They weren't
Yeah.
trying to get rich.
Yeah.
Right. So for them, it was about the music. So I will take a band like I haven't mentioned them yet, but I consider them one of the best Pittsburgh bands ever, and I will put them up with any band. The Cynics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The
Sure.
Cynics are to me one of the best garage rock bands
Yeah.
of all time.
Right.
Okay, and if people knew them, like if they had gotten the airplay,
Yeah.
right, they got no
Right.
airplay here. They got no love. The Clarks, God bless them, they're a very good band.
Yeah.
Okay, they got a lot of the attention.
Right.
Right. You didn't hear the Cynics. I'll give you another favorite band of mine. It's in my Mount Rushmore of
Mhm.
Pittsburgh bands. Is ATS.
Oh sure.
Oh, yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Just they came out as kind of like they were sort of in this cowpunk
Yep.
era, but like one of the guys was cowpunk. They were all different in what they
Yeah.
were into. So it was this crazy mixture of like cowpunk, noise, avant-garde jazz,
Mhm.
a little bit of prog here and there, just like this indescribable band that I don't think there's anything really comparable
Yeah.
to ATS. And I would just go to like every ATS show.
Yeah.
I was just like a fanboy of that band. So, you know, between like the House Rockers, the Cynics, ATS, the Little Wretches were great.
Yeah.
Robert Wagner. I'm sort of forgetting
No.
names, but then so I'm talking here about the era of like we're talking Electric Banana.
Right.
We're talking about Decade, where you had at the Decade, at one point you had 4 major label bands playing every weekend.
Yeah.
You had the House Rockers, Billy Price, Silencers, Norm Nardini, 1979, 1980. You had 4 major label acts that didn't do well nationally necessarily. The Silencers were on the first day of MTV.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was really cool. So that was that era of like 70s, early 80s. Now graffiti comes along.
Right.
Okay. And in about 84, 85.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting what. They come along with this rock challenge,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so now you have the Clarks coming out of Indiana University, right? Inspired by like bands like REM, the return of guitar music, and we have this explosion of bands. Like it's literally an if you build it, they will come.
Right.
At graffiti.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have like, and you would call them banana bands,
yeah,
decade bands, graffiti bands, right? And so the graffiti bands were the Clarks, 11th Hour.
Yeah.
I saw the first Rusted Roots show at Graffiti, which was the Graffiti Rock Challenge. When there were just 4 of them, and they weren't good.
Yeah.
But you could tell that there was something between Michael and Liz. Like there was something magic happening here in the vocals. They didn't have all the percussion going yet. There was a great, and then you had like, it seemed like every time I would walk into Graffiti, they had this front room, with a bar, and like Bill Deasy was always there, on the stage, right?
Sure, yeah.
There's like you would see Bill Deasy outside, and then like who knows whatever was inside, like Nirvana or something, and then Bill Deasy was playing in the bar, and then his band, which was Shiloh, they won maybe the second Graffiti Rock Challenge. So we had all these bands, like so there would be like 16 bands, I think, would start the graffiti, start in the first rounds of the Graffiti Rock Challenge. Right. And just so many bands became popular out of that.
Yeah,
Brownie Mary,
I mean,
like
I think,
is one of them.
Yeah, Brownie Mary. I think it's interesting, and maybe I see it because I probably wasn't as enmeshed in it as you were, right? But a lot of those bands started out as graffiti bands, but then slowly sort of morphed into Nick's Fat City, right?
Well, graffiti clothes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And so you had the Clarks, Brownie Mary, Gathering Field, Nixon Clocks, right? Like all of these bands, sort of Blue Duck, remember Blue Duck Records?
Yeah. Reed Freeman. Yeah, the Buzz Poets.
Yeah.
Like that was like that became the Knicks scene of the, what was it, the early zeros?
Yeah.
Probably 90s, early zeros. Yeah. But part of that was because the thing about graffiti, it was a showcase room. Right?
Yes, it was.
It was not a dedicated club to a certain sound.
Right.
Like the Decade, the beauty of the Decade is if it was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, you could just walk in there. You didn't need to know who was there. It was going to be something, you knew what it was going to be.
Right.
Bluesy, R&B, gritty, either Billy Price, the House Rockers, the Silencers, Red Hot and Blue, Bon Ton Relay, Warren King, all this stuff. It had a sound. Earlier in the week, they would have like the Cynics and Trash Vegas and like some of the sort of like the newer punk bands and garage bands and stuff like that. And then the Banana obviously was doing like punk, and they were starting getting into hardcore and metal. And I was like, I wasn't quite getting like the hardcore of that era. Like, so I was, sort of, but graffiti would host those bands that we talked about, but you might go one night and it's like Dave Mason playing acoustic or David Bromberg. So you couldn't just say, I'm going to go to graffiti and just see what's going on.
You are correct, right?
You also would have to pay like maybe like a $15 ticket for something,
right?
Rather than like the $3 cover at the Banana or the $5 to get into the Decade.
Yeah.
So all those bands needed like places that they could play regularly, like every week.
Right.
So that's where Nick's like really came in.
Yeah, no, you're right about graffiti. I've seen a lot of bands of graffiti, and I'm talking about major label ones, right? Who were just starting to bubble over, and you would have to pay you wouldn't just show up.
Yeah.
Like you would for me it was Banana, right? Like you would show up at the Banana,
Yeah.
you would show up at some of these other places, even Nick's Fat City, which was a more expensive cover. You would still just show up because you kind of knew the kind of bands who were going to play there.
Yeah.
But
oh man,
oh no, go ahead.
I mean the bands I saw at Graffiti, like the Replacements, Sonic
Oh
Youth,
yeah.
Social Distortion,
Well,
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
It was just unbelievable.
How compare the scenes from when you started to most recently? How did the whole you going to concerts? How did that whole thing change? Because I'm sure it's changed over 41 years. How did that compare?
You mean to what the club scene now?
Yeah, just like when you're taken in, you have like 20 minutes to write a story. How did that change as your career got bigger and bigger? The bigger artists, bigger shows, bigger stages.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the whole deadline thing.
And not just deadlines, but just how how did it go from like Taylor Swift to Brownie Mary or the Affordable Floors or something? So tell me how.
I'll leave off something off of what you're talking about.
Okay.
Okay. So, in terms of first of all, in terms of the scene, I am in my 60s, right?
Yeah.
So I'm really not going out to Roboto Project and these young people probably they know much more than I do, but obviously I'm writing about mainstream music at the Post Gazette. I'm writing about my readers at the Post Gazette. They want the freaking Eagles.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I can write a piece on a band, like a young adventurous band coming to one of the smaller places, and they're not reading it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But if I do Bruce,
yes,
anything about Bruce, it's clicks.
Yeah.
And that's what I needed. Obviously, I wasn't getting enough of them. But so in terms of how writing changed for me, so in 2010, Paul McCartney was playing the first show at Consol Energy Center.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was going to cover the opening in this place with Paul McCartney. So I had a BlackBerry.
Yeah.
Okay. So I said to my editor, I said, what if I sent you just 3 graphs about what was going, and you could get something.
Yeah.
Right.
I think this was on the web.
Yeah.
Quickly, So instead of writing the 3 graphs on the BlackBerry where you can only see a line at a time or something, I wrote a whole review.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I began to do, and what I did up until March 1st when Nelly was my last review. Journey before that is I would write the entire review on my phone in real time, and then I would file it on the last song, with the thought that people can walk to their cars and they can get in their cars, not read it while they're driving, but maybe their husband or wife or their friend or whatever. The review would be there. You could read it on the way home.
Right. Incredibly different than it was. I mean, everything changed, right? The way you could write the story, the way the medium was delivered, everything about it. And also the expectation, right? If the expectation was, I'm going to wake up in the morning and see the paper, now it's, I want to know what everyone else thought right now of the show I just saw.
Yeah. Now, I don't know how many people were reading it at 11:30 or midnight. I would see that it was starting to get clicks, and sometimes I would wake up in the morning and there would be a whole bunch of them there. But I just also I had another more personal reason for doing it, which was if I go to a concert and then I go home and then I go to bed, I can't. I'm gonna wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm gonna go, okay, there's my lead.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna wake up another hour later and it's okay, I got the nut graph now.
Right.
And I'm gonna have the worst night of sleep and I'm gonna be miserable. So it was I'm just gonna get this done.
Right.
And then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get a nice sleep.
Right. Well, I think people don't realize, and maybe I'll say this and then we'll go to a break real quick. But doing this as well, I think people don't realize that you go in with one idea, right? Like, I mean, a band starts or whatever event you're covering, right? And you start to write the story in your head. You're constantly thinking and revising and writing. And then by the time whatever event you're covering is over, you've got a story in your head. But if you go home and you get cut off in traffic or whatever else, right? And then you get home and you make a cup of coffee and you turn on the television, and all of a sudden that story that you had in your head that was laid out is all of a sudden different, right? And so for shows, I think it's more pertinent to write it immediately.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a more thoughtful review if it's written the next day.
Yeah, sure.
But I also like the urgency of in the moment, and also it can really sort of change a lot in the moment.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to give you I'm going to come back to McCartney. Is this the second or third time I've come back to McCartney?
This is only the second.
Okay,
We're
only
good.
the second time.
Right.
So his recent show here, to me, did not begin well.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm in the midst of like a kind of a negative Paul McCartney review. Like,
right.
It's not sounding that great. And then the show's going along, and he's getting stronger. Like, we're getting into like the second hour.
Yeah.
And he's getting stronger and stronger every song, to where the last hour, and I was with my son.
Yeah.
The last hour, I was absolutely in freaking heaven. Like, it was one of the best hours of music I ever heard. He was ramming through these classics, and he was building energy, and the show was just like exploding. So the review is like, it's changing.
Right.
I'm taking out some of the earlier things about like, his voice is so to like, he's getting stronger.
Yeah.
I don't know how the review. I will not go back and read the review.
Yeah, I get it.
I freaking hate.
Did your son like the show?
Well, it was like slow.
Yeah.
For a while, but then we got into that last hour, and we're like, this is like a cosmic experience.
Right.
We are seeing like something amazing here.
Yeah.
I was like,
right.
I'm like moved by it. Like,
right.
Just thinking about it.
Wow.
Right. Well,
awesome. Want to take a break?
I think we should take a break, and then we'll come back and keep talking music for you.
When I need a coffee that actually shows up and a suite that understands commitment, I head out to Potomac Station Coffee. Everything's made in-house, always fresh, and yes, that cinnamon roll, you're eating the whole thing. And the ever-changing latte menu is legendary. Check out Potomac Station Coffee House next to the tracks in Dormont. Welcome back to Gen X Pittsburgh. I have some questions for you. You've interviewed legends to bands that have just started out. Who has surprised you the most, either good or bad?
All right, I'm gonna go to Stevie Nicks.
Oh.
Bad.
Okay. So I had.
I love Stevie Nicks. Shut up.
Fleetwood Mac was going on tour. They were going to come to Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
I got a call from the publicist. Can you talk to Stevie and Lindsay? Okay. You're going to talk to Lindsay, and then 20 minutes later, you're going to talk to Stevie. Okay. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm thinking, Stevie Nicks, this is going to be really scary.
Yeah.
Like, I'm scared. Okay. She was maybe the nicest person I have ever interviewed.
I love to hear that.
Really?
She kept asking me questions about me. Like, she was interested like in my life. And I'm like, Stevie, we're doing this. I'm interviewing you. You realize that. But she was just like, and that's very rare that artists will ask you questions about your life.
I love that.
Another one who did that was Art from Everclear, Art Alexander.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't think he's a good guy. I hit it off with him really well. I will give you another sort of crazy example. Was talking to Ozzy.
Oh my God.
And that was just kind of like a total manic fest where he's talking and I'm thinking, I can't print any of this.
Right.
You know what I mean? And because every other word is like the F word. And we can't even do like F hyphen on the Post-Gazette. It would have to be expletive,
Right.
expletive. And so he was he was coming to Ozfest. But the amazing thing about Ozzy is that just how nice he was.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the interview, he said something that nobody else had ever said. And he said, and I'm not going to do his accent. I don't do accents. He said, if you need anything else, call me back.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Ozzy Osbourne just said if I had any more questions to call him back.
That's
Because
cool.
usually these artists are like, boom, boom, boom.
Right.
You know, assembly line
Yeah.
interview, you get 15 minutes.
Right.
And he's like, I could really call him back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did
No.
you?
No, of course not. Now, the other thing, I've spoken to Johnny Rotten twice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
And I had some real interesting interviews with him.
Yeah, I bet you did.
And we hit it off
Oh
really
my
well.
God.
Yeah.
And then I started asking him about like, you know, what new music he would
Right.
come out with. And he started complaining about like not having a label deal.
Yeah.
You know, and so I said, well, you know, we're in this era where people are just like we're recording and putting stuff
Yeah.
out. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And he was like, you don't know a thing, do you? And he hung up on me.
That's great. That's great. You know, I saw PIL the last time they were here, and we were standing by the bus, and he got off, and there were all these kids, little kids. I don't know, I mean, 12. You know, but one of them was holding a Sex Pistols album, and you could tell that Johnny Rotten. He gets off, and he's Johnny Lydon. You know, he's the guy Johnny. Personal Johnny, and he's walking through and he sees the album and the kid's calling out and you could see the demeanor shift and he's like, all right, now I have to play Johnny Rotten, you know what I mean? And he comes
I
over to the
love
kid
it.
and he's like, I bet you want me to sign your album for you, don't you? And he like
Right.
tosses it. He doesn't toss it far so the kid can go get, but you know, he does a whole Johnny Rotten thing. So that I think that story's great.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll tell you an embarrassing interview moment I had.
oh yeah.
Okay. I was on a conference call with Taylor Swift. Okay.
Okay.
And this was like right soon after the whole thing happened with Kanye and Beyonce
Yeah.
and everything like that. And so we were told going into the interview by the publicist, we are not to bring up Kanye West.
Oh no.
Okay. So it gets to me and you know, you have to push button like
Right.
star or whatever. It's like, okay, we have Scott Mervis from the Post-Gazette. And I'm like, yeah, hi Taylor. I'm just wondering how you felt about when President Obama
Okay.
sort of came to your, you know, defense
Yeah.
after this thing happened. And I didn't say Kanye West.
Right.
You know, I didn't.
Yep.
And the publicist comes in and said, I'm sorry, we have to move on.
Yep.
She was not going to answer that.
Yeah.
question.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
I've done that
And,
sort of
and
thing.
I thought I could get around. I thought it was
Right,
a
right,
good
right.
end around. Like she could
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
oh, you know, yeah, it was like really cool, like the president, but and she didn't have to go into all the
Right.
dirt about
Right,
it. You know what I
right.
mean? Just give me like a line.
Didn't
You-
work.
No, the publicist said,
Yeah.
boom. That was my question. I had talked to her previously,
Yeah.
you know, in a
Yeah,
one-on-one
yeah.
interview, but this was in a conference call with all these other journalists,
Right.
and I was like that I knew, and some
Yeah,
that I knew,
yeah.
some I didn't. But it was I was real embarrassed
Yeah.
when that happened, you know. But I want to say another nice thing about
Oh
Taylor.
yes.
So I met her before the Reputation tour show backstage at the stadium.
Yeah.
And I was sort of in a thing where like two people could come in and like you could talk to Taylor. And I was with my daughter came with me to that. Like
Yeah.
Oh.
I brought my daughter to that. And we went in and talked to Taylor and she was super nice. And like, she was like 7 foot tall.
Yeah. Oh,
And you know, and my daughter and I were pretty small, and so somebody says, "Hey, let's get a picture," and I'm thinking, "Oh, great!
Right.
Like this is going to be great." She's wearing like, you know,
Yeah.
spike
Yeah,
heels.
yeah,
She's
Right.
already like 6 foot tall.
Right.
She's wearing 4-inch heels. She's like 6'4". Okay,
Yep.
and so it's picture time, and here's what Taylor does: she bends down like this,
Yeah.
like that.
Aw.
And so there's a picture of me and Taylor, and she's kind of leaning over, but it looks like we're the same
Right.
size. And I thought,
That's
like,
nice.
what a sweet thing that
Right.
was for her to
Yeah.
do. Like,
I
she
can
could have
identify with that
She could have
story,
been
Scott.
like, you know, she could have stood there like
Right.
just towering
Right.
over us, like, you know,
Yeah.
but she chose not to do that.
I've had that experience.
We wouldn't have even been in the frame together.
Yeah. No,
You know?
yeah, I do know.
Like,
Yes.
I don't even think the picture
Right.
was possible.
Right. Nobody ever
So,
bends
like-
over for me, Scott. So I had to trust me.
So
Yeah.
before we sat down tonight, you mentioned that you are writing a book. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yes, I am hoping to. Well, I've started it. Okay, I have a good portion of it done. But what I want to do first is an anthology of my best Post-Gazette stories about Pittsburgh musicians.
That's
I
awesome.
love that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I'm talking, like we said, talked about House Rockers,
Yeah.
Car Sickness, and Diamond Rio. These are kind of like long form stories.
Right.
I have like, you know, everything from the Skyliners
Yeah.
to, you know, Wiz Khalifa, Mac Miller,
Wow.
all these.
Yeah.
So I'm basically laying it out myself, and I'm writing intros
Yeah.
to each story, just like a couple graphs.
Wow.
What I need is the Post-Gazette's blessing
Right.
to do this.
Right.
I need their permission to do it.
Right.
And so I'm just hoping by, you know, the
Yeah,
grace of the
yeah.
PG
Yeah.
that they will let me do it. I don't think it's gonna make a lot of money. I don't
Right.
think it's gonna be a big
Right.
seller, a big hit. I have you know, it's not gonna be on the New York Times bestseller.
Right.
I don't plan to make anything off it. I just want to have it out there as part like legacy, part like documenting Pittsburgh music.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I love that so
And
much.
Well, so I'm curious. You know, I don't know if most people realize just how deep the Pittsburgh music scene is, right? From doo-wop to hard bop to experimental electronic, right? Like you did. I mean, you know, we have names like Art Blakey, Stanley Turntine, Black Moth,
Yep,
Super Rainbow, right? So,
yeah.
what of those bands, like, what's your favorite Pittsburgh bands when you're thinking about this stuff? What are your favorite bands,
Oh man, you had to ask me that. Like, so
or your most
That's
memorable,
tough.
maybe?
yeah. Well, that's tough, but I would go with. I think I would have to go with 4,
Mhm.
and that would be the Iron City House Rockers, Car Sickness, ATS, and the Cynics.
Wow.
Very cool.
That would be
Yeah.
my 4. And I'm glad you're not making me rank them.
Yeah. No.
Because I couldn't. I couldn't do it.
Where's your favorite? What's your favorite club to see a show?
Now or then?
I think of all time.
All time.
It would have to be the Decade, because the Decade had something going on there that was like unlike anything else in Pittsburgh
Right.
music. And I think a big part of it was this combination of college kids,
Mhm.
okay, bratty college kids like us, and these blue collar Oakland
Right.
locals, these people that grew up there, and we were invading on their
Yeah.
their turf.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And the two didn't necessarily like each other all that much.
Right.
You know, it wasn't always like a happy like union at the Decade. There was a fight every night.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like every night there was a fight.
Yeah.
Right.
They had many bouncers, big bouncers. And so when you walked into the Decade, you didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
You might get into a fight. You might have the greatest night of your life. You might get thrown out. I walked in there one night. It was January 1991, and I was trying to get into that back room to
Mhm.
see my friend's band, Ed Masley's band,
Oh, yeah.
the Frampton Brothers. And like, there's a dude in my way, and I'm like trying to get around him, and like I tap him on the back, and he has a biker jacket on, and I'm like, excuse me. He turns around, it's Steven Tyler.
Oh, wow.
No way.
Yeah, Steven Tyler
Yeah.
was like standing right in front of me at the Decade.
Wow.
And that night was one of the best club nights I ever saw, because Aerosmith got on the stage at the Decade
Wow.
and played with the Boston band, the Neighborhood. And so, you know, there's obviously the story of Springsteen going in there. I was
Right.
there that night, although I was there earlier and I left because it looks like he's not coming in.
Right.
There was the night that Jack Nicholson and Danny DeVito went in there to see Billy Price, I think
Yeah.
it was. Like, you went in the Decade and you didn't know what was. I had a girlfriend at the time who became my wife, and you know, she had this like attractive, curly, long blonde hair, and she would get hit on every time
Right.
I went in the decade. Like there was danger there.
Yeah.
And then we would always get into some kind of fight about something.
Oh my God.
The decade just had so much like tension, but like in a bad way and a good way at
Yeah.
the same time.
Yeah.
And I can't think of any other place that was like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, the good old
That
days.
was a
Yeah.
long
The
answer.
good old
No, that
days.
was
I
great.
love
You
it.
expected
That was
a
great.
short answer to
That's
that.
okay.
Right.
It's okay. We are going to move on to our rapid fire rewind. We're just going to.
I'll stay rapid fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are simple.
Okay.
We're going to ask you 10 questions.
Cool.
Maybe more.
You
Maybe
just
more.
roll off an answer.
Okay.
Okay. Iron City or Rolling Rock?
Iron City. I hate Rolling Rock.
Okay.
Favorite alternative band?
Favorite alternative band? I'll go Replacements.
Three Rivers or Heinz Field?
Three Rivers for sure.
Let's
For
take
sure.
you
It's all
outside
on
of
great
music
shit.
a little bit. What's your favorite Gen X movie?
The Sure Thing.
Oh, wow, that's so different than everyone
Yeah.
else's answer. You didn't say The Breakfast Club.
It's literally one of my favorite movies of all time.
Okay.
Turners.
And I know that's pretty lowbrow.
Yeah.
Turners or Schneiders?
Definitely neither.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah. How about your favorite Saturday morning cartoon?
From back in the day,
Back in the day.
Land of the Lost.
All right.
Donzi's and Chauncey's or Metropole and Rosebud?
Oh, Metropole.
Yeah, completely.
This is gonna be a good one for you. First concert.
I'm gonna give you two
Okay.
because my mom took me to see the Jackson 5 in 1972,
Yeah.
Wow.
but I don't count that
Sure.
because that was my mom taking me
Right.
to a concert. So it was definitely Kiss in '77 on the
Okay.
Destroyer.
Yeah,
tour.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Southside Beehive or Oakland Beehive?
Well, that's really interesting because I worked in Pittsburgh and we were on the South Side and we would go to the Beehive, but I saw Guided by Voices
Yeah.
at the Oakland Beehive and it was
Yeah.
incredible. So I'm gonna go with that.
Okay. And how about Atari or Nintendo?
It's not my generation,
right.
I don't think,
All right.
but I'm gonna go. It was Nintendo with my kids.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. And it was Gretzky, the
Oh,
Gretzky
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
80 whatever,
Right.
90 something with a 3 against 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Favorite cereal as a kid growing up?
Favorite cereal as a kid growing up. Life, I would say Life.
Life? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's it. No
That's
more
it.
questions? No, okay.
Right.
I was
It's
waiting
good to
for
end
one
with
more.
life. I
No.
like ending with Life.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, thank you so much. This has
It's
been
been
so
fabulous.
much fun.
Yeah,
we
thank
really
you.
appreciate you
Yeah,
coming
you guys,
on.
it was great.
Thank you.
It was great
Thank you.
sitting with you guys.
Thank you,
I
and the best
appreciate
of
it.
luck to you.
Yeah.
We love
You too.
Scott Mervis.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Hosts for the Gen X Pittsburgh podcast are David Rulo and Valerie Christoffel. Executive producer, David Rulo. Producer and graphic design, Kimberly Rulo. Producer, Valerie Christoffel. Video production and editor, Brent Isaac. Music by Neostem. Sponsored by Potomac Station Coffee House and Con Alma.